Good. Welcome back, everyone. I have the real pleasure today to have Matteo Perucchini with me, who is the founder and CEO of Cambridge Healthcare Research, which we will delve into a lot of detail shortly. Just to give a brief background to Matteo, and do correct me if I'm wrong on anything, Matteo, but you did your BSc in biotech at the very prestigious Cardiff University. And from there, your career has been all downhill, I'm afraid. You never quite reached the heights, but you then went on to do your MSc and PhD, which sound very interesting. There's some publications that have come out of that. And you spent time as a researcher, and then you made a jump from sort of doing the bio research into strategy and consulting work for still healthcare pharmaceuticals. Then you did something very interesting that I will get onto at another point, but I'm not going to spoil the surprise yet. But then in 2014, you started Cambridge Healthcare Research, which has grown since then to, LinkedIn says it's now 120 employees. Is that roughly right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Now, we made it to 120.
So welcome, first of all, and thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here and to be able to share the story of CHR, Cambridge Healthcare Research. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, so let's start now and work backwards a little bit. We might jump around a little bit in the interview, but could you give us an overview of what Cambridge Healthcare Research does now?
Yeah,
and how that has developed since 2014 to be either different or similar to what you did when you first started up, please?
I guess you're going to cut some of this.
Yes.
My connection is not great. I'm trying to close everything I've got open. So I don't know if it's my connection or if it's you freezing me.
It shouldn't be this side. I'm plugged in, so I should get Ethernet.
Let me close everything possible. Sorry about this.
It's okay. What you might want to do, I don't know if you've got a record button on your side.
Yeah.
Which, if let me allow you to record as well. So if you record it to your side, that will record a local recording to you. So my guy can stitch them together to make us sound flawless. There we go.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Right. You cannot minimize Zoom. Okay. Right. Despite 2 years working virtually, there's still glitches when dealing with everything else. Thank you for the question. So Cambridge Healthcare Research, I think overall, as a business, in terms of our services, we haven't evolved too much from the beginning. We provide strategic decision support to a wide range of stakeholders in the sort of life sciences and healthcare space. We are talking about pharmaceutical companies, biotechnology companies, medical devices, and a wide range, including non-profit organizations. Obviously, our main focus is large pharmaceutical companies. Mm-hmm. We work at the product and portfolio level within these huge pharmaceutical companies. We work at the sort of headquarter level. We do some work with affiliates, but our main focus is at the sort of headquarter level. So looking at the global picture, I would say. And ultimately, as a business, we help them make decisions. We help them navigate the complexities of the space in terms of from a commercial perspective, but also very importantly from a therapeutic area perspective. Really understanding not just for science, but also from a medical perspective. So the viewpoints of all different stakeholders. You know, what does it mean for the client, for their product? What does it mean today? How things are going to evolve in the market? You know, how are they going to play and ideally win in the future within the market? So CHR has grown, I would say, quite nicely. We started the company. We registered the company in 2013. right at the end of the year. So we didn't do anything in 2013. I think it was the 31st of December 2013 that we had the company. 2014, it was us, the three founders, is myself and two other founders. We were just doing some contracting work for clients, for other consulting firms. And in 2015, that's where we really started growing the business. The focus is really competitive strategy, but in 2018, 2019, we created also a new unit within the company. They look mainly market research within pharmaceutical space. That unit has also been growing quite nicely. So today, as a company, it's 120 of us. You have around 90 consultants, and then the rest is this market research unit called Box Bio, and then also the whole infrastructure that you require to keep a company of 120 people going.
Yeah.
But overall, there hasn't been a significant change. We remain true to what we started the company for, what we're trying to achieve back then, and this is how we're moving forward. Obviously, you always need to evolve in some way, so the principles are the same, but we're into market research now. We're starting to consider pricing market access, which is another area for pharmaceuticals to always consider when they're playing within the market. So we're looking at different ways to evolve and ultimately diversify and keep the company growing.
Yeah, great. And you're at a very interesting stage now, because it is typically around this stage. I'm sure people have told you, but in anthropological studies, they generally say, a tribe of 120, and I'm always a bit skeptical about these generalizations, but I'm guessing you've already got one big bump. I often find is around the sort of 25 to 35 stage, where you can't really act as an informal family anymore. You can't have visibility as the CEO of everything. So if we talk about that bump firstly, I guess, did you experience a bump, or did you know something was coming, so you put systems in place to prepare for growth and for formalization of processes and things like that?
Yes, I guess as you grow a company, you experience many bumps. Whether it was around 20, 30 individuals, probably yes. I think 50 was also another big one.
Okay.
I think mentally, reaching 100 for whatever reason, it just feels it's a number. It's a big number. So you do see these different bumps. The complexity of the organization changes. Communication surprisingly becomes a challenge sometimes internally. You really need to think about, you start having different teams, different units. You have all the support functions, they need to communicate with each other to deliver value and enable the consultant to deliver to clients. So you do see all these different challenges. Certainly, you need to put in place processes and try to automate and professionalize. Did we do it? Did we see it coming and took action, or did we find ourselves in a bit of a difficult situation and then you try and fix the problem? I would probably say the latter. You're busy.
Very honest of you.
No, it's fine. You're busy delivering to client. You're experiencing significant growth. When I talk to my other founders, I often say that we're quite geeky at heart. We're passionate about science. We're passionate about the clients, the work, the industry. So we were just having fun to some extent.
Sure.
The company is growing, projects are coming in, are exciting projects. You have to deal with, payroll for 20 or 30 people, and then you're no longer managing just a couple of projects. You've got quite a few projects to manage. You need to staff them. You need to recruit more people. So I think we have always been focused on delivering excellence to our clients. That's I guess how you grow a small firm. But yeah, the internal structures, I think we've probably started our journey of professionalization in 2019, I would say.
Okay.
We really sat down and said, okay, guys, things really need to change. And I think at that stage it was probably more like 50 of us, and that's where we really started in the whole sort of support and infrastructure.
Yep. Okay, brilliant. And taking you back to when you first started, you said there were 3 of you, and I presume these are people that you worked with in consulting.
Yeah.
Okay. And were they also scientists by training, or were they more business focused?
So I think the background has been mainly science for all of us. You know, one of us has an MBA, the other 2 of us are PhDs. Within the company, that's something that we don't hire many undergrads at all. The focus tends to be sort of PhDs. We have some MBA. Tend to sort of, the client really wants to see the deep understanding of the science and the understanding from both a scientific and medical perspective. Okay. And you need to find people that have both to some extent. They have that sort of commercial brain, but also they understand science. But the fact is, yes, they have. We all understand science.
Not easy people to find. I mean, you see it. I see it more with technology and IT consultancies who look for people who are great IT people, but also can sell and understand business. And they're very hard to come across. Is that the same in your area?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay.
Challenging. I think we do screen a lot of applicants who push them quite a bit, I would say, in a healthy way during the recruitment process. But ultimately, you know, it's to make sure that we find the right people, and also they are also people that are going to thrive in the environment. You don't want to bring in someone that then's going to suddenly realize that, you know what, they love being in a lab, and what are they doing trying to deliver consulting services to.
Sure. Yes. Yeah, it's a challenge one of my clients has at the moment, in that she does a lot of data work, and she's recruited these fantastic, bright, you know, brains to do all the data stuff. But now the firm's at a certain size, there's no one who can sell, and so the firm has really hit quite a plateau. It's not uncommon.
Yeah, and the growth, you know, sales, it's obviously important. That's ultimately how you grow. You'll find people that are excited about consulting and about clients and about projects. They're good scientists, they're good consultants. The selling part, you're almost adding a third variable to the equation. And then you need to find someone that is a good scientist, understands the science, is good at consulting, and they want to engage with. And, you know, you talk about business development, you talk about building relationships, but, you know, ultimately you're trying to grow the company, you're trying to grow revenue. Sure. You are selling in a very soft way. You know, you don't have people on the phone doing cold calling. It's about building new relationship, developing existing relationships, and it's a different sales, but it's
I guess you're now at the stage. In fact, you've been at the stage for some time where it would be insufficient for you and the 2 other partners to be, or 2 other founders to be, responsible for sales. So how have you tried to make sales and business development core to the company? Because we've got all these mouths to feed now. Yep. And I'm guessing it can't just be on your shoulders.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's not. And I think it's when we've grown the business, you obviously, in our case, we've decided to opt for a model where we're recruiting in the consulting space, and we develop them through their career. So through that, then you identify the people that are gonna not just help you to deliver projects, but help you to sort of build and grow the company. So obviously we are relying on push forward and build these relationships with clients. But a lot of the time when we talk to all our consultants is the way that you have with your clients, whether it's whatever emails you send your clients, when you pick up the phone and you talk to them, when you meet them in person, because it's about relationships. And a lot of the time, you know, my perspective is that if you're in a room with a client, and it feels like you're trying to sell them something, probably not doing the right thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's not about that. It's not about, here I've got something nice to sell to you, please buy it. It's about, okay, what's your problem? What challenges are you facing? How can we address them? And how can we work together to make sure that you as an individual receive value out of this relationship, and you can grow also internally within your organization. And then your organization obviously gets the value. And then because of the field that we're in and our clients are extremely passionate about patients, the benefits always ends up, the focus ultimately, it's about making sure that value is delivered to patients.
Great, thank you. That's a really in-depth answer. I appreciated that. Now, I guess this is the point to bring in your, I guess, the fact that you might drop in. I would certainly drop in all the time at a dinner conversation, which is that you sailed solo across the Atlantic. Is that right?
I rode solo across the Atlantic, so there were no sails involved.
Yes, sorry, not sailed. Hold on for 1 second. Hello, darling.
Hey.
Sorry, Matteo.
No, it's okay.
Daddy's in a meeting, darling. Yes. Oh no. Oh no. We'll go and tell Mummy, okay? Good boy.
He's already seen.
All right, I love you. Thank you, darling. Really sorry about that.
It's okay. I had my wife had to do a couple of things this morning. She's on maternity leave, so I had the little one for the first few meetings this morning. So.
Okay, yeah. It's after school. It's all a little tense, and I think they brought their friend back with them. So the trouble is with Alex is, I've taught him to come and tell me because he's a big, strong boy, and he can throw the little one across the room. So I say, tell me. But now he comes and tells me everything, which is very sweet, but he's got to work. Okay, so as my go to the editor, we can take that little bit out, please.
Okay.
So Matteo, this is a good point to drop in the fact that you rode solo across the Atlantic, which is around 3,000 miles, and apart from, I guess, you'll have answered the question why, and I occasionally come across people who are very determined and love a challenge, and there's something, I guess that's part of it. I guess the question I've got is the skills and temperament that enabled you to do that, are they also useful or even a hindrance in setting up and growing a company?
That's a really good question. Adventure and challenges and endurance teach you a lot of things, skills that sometimes you don't know you had. Does that as well, probably to a whole new level.
Sure.
The ocean allows you to the positives and negatives in a very acute way. Normally when you come back, you idealize everything and you only think about the positives, but there's some very low points when you're alone at sea. But yes, I think it teaches you resilience for sure in the way, resilience, sometimes people look at it in different way, but the way to sort of really overcome challenges, to sort of pick yourself up when you're facing a hurdle. And growing a company, it's a challenge. You're always facing, it's a competitive environment, it's a competitive space. You've got some macro factors which will really impact your journey. So from that point of view, what you learn in an environment like the ocean and crossing an ocean, yes, can really help you. In terms of being a hindrance, I haven't thought about too much. I think sometimes, depending if the journey is going well or not, obviously when you're growing a company, because it's not always the but you need to learn to celebrate the growth, and that's really something that, as founders of the company, we haven't done enough, because there's always challenges, there's always problems.
Sure.
When you've got a lot of people, there's always something going on, whether it's on the client side, on the delivery side, on the, I don't know, infrastructure side. So you tend to get sucked into that sort of mindset. And something like the ocean, you need to be engaged and focused all the time. You cannot lower your guard, because otherwise, the ocean will remind you of the fact that you're not in a it's a relatively safe environment within reason, but it's
relatively, I think, is
it's a challenge. It's a challenging environment, and you always need to be focused. So sometimes, yes, maybe you just get in this tunnel of getting things done, and you just need to stop more and enjoy the journey, enjoy the company because in my case was solo. Like building a company, it's together with other people at the beginning, the founders, and now the 120 people within the organization. So from that point of view, it's about really enjoying the journey together and making sure you focus on the positives more.
Yes, it's interesting, that thing about, I find this quite a bit with founders, and I'm a touch like this myself, but in a much less dramatic sense, in that I think a lot of people who are high achievers or might be high achievers don't take the time to celebrate. They're looking for the next challenge immediately, and sometimes they're quite hard on themselves in terms of, my wife, in fact, the last card she sent me, she said, be kinder to yourself. And
sounds like my wife.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, but it's true. You're always looking for the next thing. If I think back at all the big catalyst event we've had in the growth of the company, it was always, okay, that's done.
Yeah.
That's almost becomes the norm. What's next?
Yeah.
And you're like, well, what's next is take your team out for a big celebration. Yeah. That's what's next. That's what you're doing next.
Especially with your Italian heritage. I loved working in Italy. Although they worked long hours, I appreciated not having to take lunch at my desk every day.
No, absolutely. It's important.
Now, on that note, and do feel free to say this is none of your business and we'll edit it out or whatever, but a firm like yours will have been approached a few times by companies interested in either buying you or joint ventures or whatever, and you've said no, and you probably could have retired, taken early retirement as a wealthy man some time ago, but you clearly decided not to, which means that you're enjoying the ride and you want to keep growing the way you've been going. That's a question rather than a statement. Okay.
I think the answer to the question is yes. As myself and the other two founders often say to the team, we are in this for the long run. We are passionate about the company, we're passionate about our people, we're passionate about our clients, and we want to build something. I was about to say something special. I think CHI is already special, but something else. We want to keep on growing and develop the organization. There's always something new to learn. I guess similar to consulting to some extent. You're always learning something new, and you can break down the development of the company and the various challenges within the organization as some almost mini projects, and you're to this week or this month or the next 6 months, this quarter we're dealing with this, and then we're doing this, and I think we're still getting quite a kick out of it. And I think yes, we're here to stay, and sometimes that's what I say to the team, whether they like it or not.
Yeah, sure. Yes, and on that note, one of the common challenges, especially once you get over 50 people, I guess, is when you have a small group and you can enthuse them and you work hard and everyone's burning the midnight oil, and so it's relatively easy to deliver, or not easy, but it's put in the extra work, you can motivate people because you've got that entrepreneurial spirit. Once you get to 100 people, in most cases, process and system kicks in. People don't want to burn the midnight oil solidly for 8 years, and many people can't. So how have you kept, I guess there's two things here. How have you kept your values and your culture, or how have those developed, I guess is the first thing. And the second thing is, what replaces that 14-hour days that you do as a founder when you're first starting up? So how do you manage the energy and the growth? What drives that when you get bigger?
It's a really good question. I would say, over the last few years, one of the major challenges to the culture of the organization, more than the growth, has also been what's been happening with the pandemic.
Of course, yes.
We were growing really somewhat exponentially during the pandemic, and to some extent, at one point, we're looking around and we could see other companies going fully virtual, i.e., deciding that we're going to close the offices, and that was it. And we thought, things seems to be going quite well. We're growing in terms of revenues, clients, headcount, and then we came back together, and I could really realized the additional value that comes from being together. Okay. Engaging with each other, solving problems together. So I think the pandemic really hit us in terms of culture. We've kept being successful as a company, but that really hit us as an organization from a cultural perspective. And we had all the virtual online stuff, a million different quizzes, and
sure.
It's not the same.
No.
Now you couple that with growth and the fact that the organization is changing. I think myself and the other two founders never saw each other as entrepreneurs to some extent. We were we're consultants. We're building a firm. But in hindsight, when you think about it, yes, you do need to have, call it the entrepreneurial spirit, call it whatever you want to call it, but you need to commit to something. And people that are thinking of starting their own firm, it's not like delivering projects in a bigger organization. It's a completely different beast to some extent, because you need to have quite high appetite for risk. And maybe based on my crossing the Atlantic, I do have quite a high appetite for risk. You need to be prepared to maybe not get a salary for months or years, or there's a lot of risk. You have a responsibility towards the people, making sure that the decisions that you take can support the people. So from that perspective, it's a challenge, and you evolve, you change as an organization. You do have a core set of people that hopefully you've been able to grow with you and keep you true to who we are as a company and who you are in terms of values. I think our values haven't fundamentally changed. We're still who we were at the beginning. You grow up to some extent. You go from being a unruly teenager to some extent to sort of making sure that you have to think. You still want to have fun. You still want to. You like that flexibility. You want to be able to pivot quite quickly and to change. Needs to be done in an informed decision. We're considering building new units and delivering new services to clients. And what I often say to the team is like, yes, literally, we could do it tomorrow.
Yep.
Should we do it tomorrow, or should we spend some time really thinking about it and scoping it out? Because my concern is ultimately the company as a whole. We want to make sure that we make decisions which will not have a significant impact, maybe a positive one, but definitely not a negative one on the rest of the organization. So it's a challenge, but you really need to invest in your culture. You need to make sure that the whole team is coming with you. You remain aligned to your values. We're doing quite a lot of work around our culture, our values, our employee value proposition, which at the beginning felt a bit strange, because to us it was obvious. but suddenly you have to sort of crystallize it and put it into words and often stick it on a slide, which it doesn't feel right. It almost feels like it's losing a little bit of its magic, but you have to, because you then have to communicate it in the same way to the whole team and make sure they hear it, they understand it, and they're also able to then communicate it to the people that are reporting to them, to clients, to candidates that want to apply to a firm. So you need to create that cascade effect, and you need to invest in it. I mean, you need to make sure that you do it. As a company, we've decided to buy a much bigger, to lease a much bigger unit, much bigger office. 3 times the size of the one.
Wow. Okay.
Before the pandemic, and it's no longer just desks. We wanted to have a lot more space for people to come together, socialize, engage, and really create that culture that we had before the pandemic. We defended during the pandemic.
Sure.
We didn't lose that battle, but it was a struggle, and now we want to sort of continue to grow and develop it.
That's a great. It forms part of a great value proposition for employees, because I mean, just from my own experience, I know a lot of outstanding consultants who are at big firms who, they've got a capacity for working 12-hour days and 6 days a week, and so some of them are getting a bit sick of that. But the virtual work they're finding emotionally quite hard, and I think those boutiques that are offering stronger relationships and more face-to-face and more interaction have an advantage there sometimes.
I think sometimes project work, when it comes to virtual, it can be very draining, because there's always work to do. You can always find something else, especially if you're working on multiple projects. There's always something that you can be doing, and I think the hours can really run away from you. Being, I think, really helps, because you've got your colleagues around you. They can help, or they can also drag you away from your laptop and say, hey, come and whatever that might be. But also, I think it's in the pandemic, the silver lining of the pandemic is that it accelerated a lot of dynamics within the market that potentially were happening anyway. And I think we still need to embrace the hybrid model. We want people, the way I look at it, if you're planning to just sit in front of a device with your headphones in and just type away all day, as long as you are cautious and you don't let the hours run away, you should probably do it from the comfort of your own home. You can be in your pajama and then just do it. Just make sure you don't call clients in your pajama. But otherwise, just come to the office, structure your day to make sure that you can come to the office, you can spend some quality time with your colleagues, because otherwise it's just work. Then it becomes, talking to some people that have left the organization during the pandemic, they were saying, we went from being part of the team, part of the culture, and doing something that we really enjoyed together with the colleagues, to just doing work. Suddenly it just became work. And at that stage, you're thinking, okay, maybe I want to do something else. And obviously, people were rethinking their work and their lives during the pandemic. So we had people going back to the lab, and we had all sorts of things happening during the pandemic. But it's important to make sure that you always work on strengthening the culture and you protect people. Earlier you mentioned about doing the 14 hours, et cetera. Yes, obviously as founders, you do at the beginning, you still do it now. You need to make sure that you're there to help the organization, but it's very important to ensure that, we build an environment where work-life balance, it's protected. There's obviously, it's probably never going to be a 9 till 5, 9 till 4, especially when you start traveling. But we need to make sure that we need to look after people, because it's for us, it's one of the reasons when we started the company, we wanted to create an environment where we could deliver excellence to clients, but also we could give people the opportunity to grow and develop, and give them the headspace do that, because I've been in organizations where you don't really have the headspace. Things are just coming at you, and it's, project after project, task after task. And if we're spending a lot of money, because you're spending a lot of money hiring great talent,
Yep.
then just give them the time and the opportunity to deliver to your clients, because otherwise it's not good for the people, it's not good for the client.
Yeah. Yes, it's interesting. So I chair a meeting every year of boutique owners, and it was the first year. Last year was the first year where they said their biggest challenge wasn't new business. And don't get me wrong, new business is always a big challenge, but it was actually people. It was attracting the right people and keeping the right people. And so we had a big conversation around value proposition for employees for the first time, really, for a lot of them. And I think, as I said before, I think a lot of people are getting disillusioned with the large firms, because the utilization rates are 120%, and the training is non-existent now. So it's lovely to hear of boutiques still investing in their people.
We have to. It's almost impossible not to some extent. I guess it depends what you're trying to achieve, but especially for us, as we're saying, that for us it's a long game. We want to build something. It's critical. We are a people business. Every single company, especially in professional services, will say that people are the heart of their organization. But we need to work very hard to make sure that that's actually true, because otherwise, you're going to grow and you're going to chase revenues and you're going to chase growth, but at some point that trend will stop, and you'll start declining.
I always ask the question, what would you do differently if you had your time over, but before I do that, I've realized I need to start asking a more positive question to start off with. So the question I'd like to ask is, what are you most proud of with Cambridge Healthcare? What do you think? What feature, or whether it's something about the culture, or whether it's something about the clients you work with, or the strategy that you've done? But what are you most proud of or pleased with the firm that you guys have built? It's possibly a harder question than the other one.
Okay. So many things. Great. I think when we started, quite a few people said we had about 6 months, and then that would have been the end of our journey. So we're still here quite a few years after, which is great. But seeing the growth and the development of some of the people within the organization, especially because we hire people straight out of uni in many cases. Obviously, as you grow, when you get about past 50, things change and you start bringing in experienced people.
Sure.
But really seeing the growth and the journey that some of these individuals have been on as professionals is great. And quite a few of them are still with us. They're in positions of leadership within the company, and that's fantastic. Obviously, the engagement with clients, yeah, that's also amazing. But creating their environment where people can grow and develop, that's really what gets me out of bed.
That's nice. That's really lovely. And now the tougher question, which is, I guess you could phrase it in two ways. What unexpected hurdles did you hit, or what would you do differently over the last, if you were talking to yourself 8 or 9 years ago?
How many hours do you have? It's so things which I, to some extent, didn't expect, naively probably. It's the whole complexity of, running a business with 20, 30, 50, 80, 100 people. Because in the past, even when you're running teams, it's different. You're looking after them in a different way. You're structuring work and deliveries, but the challenges associated with the dynamic it's quite significant. Going from obviously them going through their lives and facing what we all face during life, and obviously the impact that then that has on work, that in a way was somewhat unexpected, and I guess also the weight of responsibility to some extent.
Yeah.
You are ultimately responsible for them, making sure that at the end of the month they get salary, and ideally at the end of the year they get their bonuses and all of that. So that weight of responsibility is significant. What I would do differently, earlier we talked about internal structure and professionalization and automation. I think that should start from literally day one of the company. You want to start building those structures and start doing things in a nice, clean, structured way from not day one, but definitely by the time you get your first employee, you need to start thinking about things in a structured way. And I think that I would definitely change. I would definitely put a lot more effort there, making sure that straight away you start thinking, when you're one, you start thinking about the company when it's going to be 10 or 20 or 30 or 50, and you keep on scaling that way.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it might feel like you're wasting time and money, but it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. It is challenging because as you said earlier, you're so focused on getting money through the door when you're first starting, because there is this major risk. And then at the same time, you've got people like me saying, well, you should be thinking about, your processes or your intellectual property. And you can see that sort of madness in people's eyes sometimes.
Especially if you're working extremely long hours and, you are delivering, because when you start, you're not just chasing the next sale, but you're also delivering. And obviously, if you deliver, but you don't work on developing new opportunities, you deliver a project and then there's no money.
Yep.
And then, you need to create ideally quite a smooth pipeline of business coming in. And yes, when you start layering on top of that processes, and it can become a challenge, but it's a good investment. It's a very good investment.
Yeah, and you can, I can often show immediate returns. So I'll say to a client, can you show me your invoices that haven't been paid yet? Now, 9 times out of 10, these are smaller clients. They'll say, well, no. And I said, well, how many do you have that haven't been paid in 30 days? And they'll say, I've got no idea. That's something you can fix quite easily. And it makes a positive impact on your cash flow. But it's still very common not to do it.
Yeah, and cash is king. So you always, sometimes people focus on revenue, and you're like, let's talk about cash and let's talk about profit. I think those are two more important metrics.
Yeah. How just out of interest, how big were you when you brought in a specialist finance person and a specialist HR person, and potentially now I'm guessing a professional marketing person?
So we're starting on the marketing journey in 2022. I guess, if we look back at 2019, we were an organization in the region of probably about 40 consultants. When we started really to professionalize. At the time, I think the founders, we identified areas within the business that were more aligned with our either skills or inclinations. So one of us was focusing on finance, the other one was focusing on people, let's call it human resources. I was more on the sort of operational side. And but then you suddenly realize you're becoming the bottleneck of the growth of your organization. And you definitely know this better than I do, but there are hundreds, thousands of companies which reach a certain level in terms of headcount, and they just stop there. Whether it's because it's a lifestyle choice from the founders of the organization, or whether the organization is limiting its own growth. Yeah, and it's difficult because you're almost letting go. You're bringing external people in that start, playing with your toys.
Yes,
it's difficult.
Yes, but the alternative is even worse. As I tell people, it's if you don't let go and you try and do everything,
you can't.
Everyone's going to hate you.
Yeah, but also it's only 24 hours in the day. So whether it's the team that's going to hate you or whether it's your loved ones, someone somewhere is definitely going to.
It's the curse of leadership, isn't it? Matteo, thank you so much. It's been really interesting, and your growth story has been fantastic, and I'm sure it's going to continue. And I look forward to keeping an eye on LinkedIn and your posts, and to see how the company improves over the years.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.